I think you'd be forgiven as a West Ham fan for feeling a bit deflated for Monday, starting that week after that weekend, after that Sunday draw against Crystal Palace. It was a really drab affair overall, wasn't it, from West Ham? It wasn't a great performance. It wasn't a great game. From both sides, I'd say. Both sides didn't really conjure up too much to be excited about. But there was a real frustration, I think, more for our side, for West Ham, in that it could have been so much better. It really could have been. It's a frustrating topic that we've had throughout this season. There's a few issues we've got sort of rumbling on this season, isn't there? First of all, the issue with the second half, the way we can see goals in the second half seems to be just a real problem that we can't seem to address it. I don't know why it is. And David Moyes has come out fighting a little bit. We're going to talk about that in this video, but also just the general lack of fight, the lack of belief and bravery in the side at times can be really, really frustrating. And understandably, David Moyes, as the manager, will take the blame for that, and rightly so, because he is the man in charge. He's the one issuing the instructions, working with the players, etc., etc. So you're looking to him to say, well, what are we doing? Why have we got all this talent on the pitch, and yet we're not, getting out of second gear. We're not going for it. Why do we have to keep sort of playing this conservative approach to every game? And it's always like the mindset for West Ham is just don't lose, just try not to lose the game, try not to concede. And I mean, Roy Hodgson's very similar, isn't he, in how he approaches games. That's kind of like the old school management, and you really felt that on Sunday. It was what it was. Two sort of defensively minded managers, effectively, just don't want to lose the game. But West Ham, realistically, with the players who've got on that pitch, should have done so much better. So you can really understand why fans are frustrated. But what's interesting is, I was half expecting David Moyes to come out with a little bit of arrogance, maybe, like we've seen before, a little bit of bite back in terms of, well, I've won you things. And, all right, we had a little bit of that because he did kind of suggest that, well, it's a draw, it's a good result, it's not the end of the world kind of thing. And, okay, you might have a little bit of a point there. But let's be honest, if we want to be a team that's wants to be, like he said, not challenging the big boys up the top of the league and fighting for these European places, then home games against Crystal Palace, no disrespect to Crystal Palace, but they're in bad form. They've got injuries, and it really, majority of our home games, apart from a select few teams, we've got to look at must-win games if we want to be considered a top side in this league, competing for the European places at least anyway. So a draw at home to Crystal Palace isn't a great result. We've got to see it as 2 points dropped. It's not a great result ultimately. But what David Moyes did come out and say, which I thought was quite interesting, is that he's kind of put it on the players. He's actually saying, I'm annoyed. No. I want the players to be going out and fighting. I'm expecting more. Which, whatever way you want to look at it, depends what side of the fence you're on, right? If you're on the side of saying, I just want David Moyes out of this football club, whatever, it's probably not a great thing to hear in a sense, because what essentially he might be saying is, I'm expecting a bit of a change then. I think that's actually quite a big message from David Moyes, because he's effectively, he's implying that the methods behind what he's doing with him and his team, with these squad of players, is to be more attacking minded, to go for it a bit more. It's the players that aren't. And he was saying, I was expecting the next phase. He said that after the first goal, our only goal, the Kudus goal, which, let's be honest, great goal. Well worked from the team. Excellent ball from Ward-Prowse. Lovely cutback from Soufal. Brilliant finish from Kudus. And it really did sort of, you got that feeling. Once we scored, I think like most West Ham fans, well, here we go. We're up and running now. We'll go for it. And David Moyes said that. I was expecting the next phase of the game to kick in. He said, but it just never came. It never came. And he said it was very frustrating. He's actually put the onus on the players, that the players aren't being brave enough, that they're not showing enough character, they're not showing enough personality out on the pitch. These are David Moyes' words. Well, I mean, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I'm picking out what he said. But this is what the message he is saying. So whatever way you want to look at it, it's clearly something that's on the manager's mind. Because if you'd put that, let's say that had been Sam Allardyce, a few years ago when he was our manager, and someone, let's just say we drew a game, and then someone would have suggested to him that, you know, that we weren't showing enough bravery, he wouldn't have responded in that way. I think he'd have went, "Oh, it's a point, get over it." You know, that's how we're playing. He had a massive arrogance, didn't he, about his style of football. He stood by it. Whereas David Moyes is effectively joining the fans in a sense. He's effectively saying, "Yeah, I agree. It's not good enough. I was expecting more. I want more from my team. I want to see more bravery. I want to see more character." And I think that's quite interesting in that effectively now we're expecting to see more. And now, for me personally, I don't think that's a terrible thing. I actually think to myself, okay, well, we've got Tottenham coming up. I mean, we'll talk about that as well in a sec, because I think that had a bit of an effect on the situation with our performance as well. I'm talking about the Spurs Man City game that was, you know, straight after ours on the Sunday. But going back to the game, though, on the Thursday night with Tottenham, effectively now, the onus is a little bit on the players, effectively, because he's kind of suggested, well, look, that's not what I want. I want to see more from my team. I want to see more character, more bravery. Well, now then, let's go and see it. Because there were a couple of moments in that game against Crystal Palace where you could see we were out of ideas and lacking that courage, you know? We've got players out on that pitch that can take the ball and go, I'm going to make something happen. I mean, all right, not an abundance of them, but you've got Lucas Paqueta, who's more than capable. Kudus is definitely. You've got Jared Bowen. You've got talent out on that pitch that can make things happen. Emerson, another one that seems to have that ability to sort of run through players and just create something out of nothing a little bit. But there were many times in that game where, against Crystal Palace, where you could just see we were lacking that. We were just lacking that belief. It's almost as if, for me, when I was watching it, it was like the players were kind of hoping for a repeat of what's been happening in the last few games, i.e. we're just going to nick a winner. We'll go for it in the last 10 minutes and we'll nick it. It almost worked. I mean, all right, it didn't happen, but it almost worked, especially with Bowen at the end, wasn't it, with a header. But it's not good enough. And it's interesting the stance now David Moyes has taken, because he's siding with the frustration of the fans, which is really, really interesting. I think that now, this is what my belief will be, that we will see a better performance against Tottenham. I think we have to. Because if I was a player out there, I'd be saying, well, I can't have him saying that we're not giving it our all, because that's what he is saying. Effectively, he is saying that it's down to the players. They're not being brave enough. They're not going out there and showing a bit more of what they've got. Going for it, going for the win. It's a really interesting take, actually, in terms of how he's responded to this, because I was expecting David Moyes to be very much on the case of it's a draw, it's a point, respect the point, kind of, you know, the Allardyce-esque response. Although we got a little bit of that, and in a sense, I kind of get it. He's not going to come out and say, "Oh, it was a disaster," because, you know, let's be realistic. It wasn't a disaster. It wasn't a horrendous performance. It was just bloody boring. It was just a flat, you know, performance that, you know, a bit of nice, neat passing occasionally, and a couple of, we did score a good goal, and there was a couple of chances here and there, but ultimately it was a really drab performance. And you're looking around to these players going, come on, you know, show us something. And we didn't get it. And understandably, West Ham fans walked away from that ground, and no doubt at home, etc., angry, frustrated, feeling like, and rightly so, point the finger to David Moyes. Well, David Moyes hasn't responded in the way that I was expecting him to. And I think that, whatever way you want to look at it, let's just take it for this season going forward. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the fact that he's now saying, well, actually, that is not the way we want to play. West Ham, we are not doing that on the training ground. We are not saying to these players, you know what, stay in second gear, get 1-0 and hold on to it and hang on to the end. Because that's let's be honest, that's the belief amongst the fan base, effectively, saying, well, this is what you get with Moyes. He's a bit of a dinosaur. This is what he does. We know that he's not the most forward-thinking manager in the world. We know that. He's not the most creative. But it's interesting that he's not sitting back and saying, well, hang on, I've won you a trophy, done that. We're sitting all right in the league. Leave me alone. He's actually stating that the issue is sitting with the team. The players are letting him down, which is interesting. It's going to be very interesting. I'll tell you what. I mean, as I said, I'll come back to the point about Tottenham Man City. that was the epitome of what West Ham fans want to see sometimes. I mean, Postecoglou, who we were, I'm sure that's how you say it. I'm terrible at saying that guy's name. Postecoglou, who we were obviously linked with heavily while he was at Celtic last season, has now obviously gone to Tottenham. And you watch them play against Manchester City. They're away from home, and 3 defeats on the spin going into that game. And look at the performance they put in. Real courage, went for it. Oh, and depleted by injury as well. I think they were missing, 10 players ultimately. I think they've got in their team, their squad that are injured at the moment and unavailable, whatever. And look at the performance they put in. That real drive, that hunger, that energy to go and get something from that game. I mean, obviously not nice for us to watch, of course, nothing nice, but you have to admire that. And the fact it came on the right after West Ham putting in a really kind of lackluster performance against a Crystal Palace side that weren't great. Let's be honest, Palace were bloody crap as well, really. It was a pretty boring game overall. But it evokes that emotion, doesn't it? A frustration and anger. And the anger always goes to the manager. We know that. David Moyes takes it. At the end of the day, he's the one that's going to... And rightly so. That's his job. That's what's going to happen. But I'll tell you what, him coming out and blaming the players for that and basically saying, do you know what? This is not what I want. I want better. I want to start seeing some character. Actually gives me some hope that we are going to see something a lot better against Tottenham.